What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. It's been a little bit since we've had the show, but there's a lot to talk about. Actually ended up titling this show the same as the last show because it's been so long and there's so much going on with Arkansas hoops. We're going to bring in Connor Goodson to talk about the latest with Razorback basketball and plenty going on with Arkansas football recruiting as well. A lot of visitors came in last weekend, more coming in this weekend. We're going to talk to Danny West about that also. And we're streaming on several channels now, new software. So bear with me a little bit as we get a few things figured out. All that and more on today's episode of Hawg Sports Live. And before we get started, I want to mention to everybody, as you can see below here, Hawg Sports is 60% off. That deal starts today. It ends on June 11th. So just a week-long promotion that we're doing at Hawg Sports. For those of you wondering what that breaks down to, 60% off is basically 12 cents a day. 12 cents a day for Hawg Sports Insider Razorback coverage, the #1 independent source on Arkansas sports and recruiting. 83 cents a week, $358 a month, and billed at just $42.96 for the entire year, where you'll get all your Insider Razorback coverage, discussion on the Razor's Edge Premium Forum, and just the best in the business at Hawg Sports. Been doing this for 21 years now, and we take a lot of pride in the site that we've developed over the years, one of the largest sites in the entire country, in fact, on the 24/7 Sports Network. So sign up today if you haven't already. Where do we start? It's been a little bit since we've had the show, obviously, so apologies for that, but it's been an interesting time with baseball and stuff overlapping and stuff, but we'll get back on schedule here pretty soon. Real quick, NBA Finals start again finally. Arkansas, that'd be nice. Boston is a -6.5 on the Bet Saracen app, and you can download the Bet Saracen app and place a wager on that game if you want to. The money line is Boston -250 and Dallas +200. I kind of like Dallas in this one. I don't know how you feel. Let me know in the comments. We're going to get to your questions also here in just a moment. So we've got the Arkansas basketball roster. Arkansas baseball transfer portal tracker. You can go to hawgsports.com and follow all that. Jackson McAfee's got you squared away on that stuff. So keep up with the roster and everything going on. Obviously, a disappointing ending with losing in your home regional again for Arkansas baseball. For me, baseball, the reason I don't personally have the same passion for baseball, I just feel like in football, the best team almost always wins. Not always, but almost always. And when you come down to the national championship, you always feel like, okay, they got the best 4 teams in. Obviously, now we're expanded to 12 teams. But even still, when we expand to 12 teams, it's still going to be the best 4 teams. One of the top 4 teams is still going to win the national championship almost every year. Maybe once in a blue moon, somebody will sneak up and win. A miracle. But it's almost always one of those top 4 teams, and usually the best team. Usually it's pretty clear that the best team won the national championship in football. In basketball, it's almost always one of those top 4 teams that win. Very rarely outside the top 8. It happens occasionally, a little bit more often than football, but generally it's going to be one of those top 4 teams, and really the team that's surging in March out of those 4 teams. Generally how it goes. In baseball, it's never one of the top 4 teams. I mean, it's like, I don't know. That's just what bothers me a little bit about baseball. You come to the postseason, you have a great regular season. I know they finished losing 5 of their last 6, but you had such a great regular season, won the Western Division, and then you get bounced. And because baseball to me is so fickle, and there's a lot of people that's got opinions that Dave Van Horn needs to change his lineup and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a baseball expert, so let me know what you think in the comments. But certainly another disappointing end to what was a really good regular season and a disappointing postseason. But you can find all the transfer portal stuff that opened on June 2nd, I believe. So that's going full strength right now. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Jeff Goodman released the time, or the date, I should say, for the Jimmy V Classic. Arkansas going to face Michigan Wolverines this year in Madison Square Garden. Really cool. Let's see. Arkansas will play Michigan Tuesday, December 10th. So that'll be cool to see. Arkansas's basketball roster looking pretty final right now with Trevon Brazile jumping on board. How do you feel about Trevon Brazile? Me personally, and I've said this a number of times before, even when he was entering the transfer portal, that Brazile wasn't the same player last year. I know, newsflash, that he was before the knee injury the year before. Because, I mean, if you remember, like, think about how many, like, electric, like, dunks that you'll remember for the rest of your life that Trevon Brazile had. And then last year coming off that knee injury, he wasn't even attempting those dunks. Like, all he wanted to do was throw it down in somebody's face. I personally think that's a really good addition for him, considering the roster that they had. There's been some talk about Coleman Hawkins, and we'll talk to Connor Goodson about what all went down there. But like, if some of the numbers that were being thrown around to bring Coleman Hawkins in versus Trevon Brazile, who going into last season was viewed like as a top 15 pick. I mean, viewed as a top 15 NBA pick, and then obviously slid a little bit, but very well could have been drafted still if he'd remained in the draft. I think he made the right decision to come back. I felt like Arkansas needed a big man. If they're only going to go with 9 scholarship players, they needed one more big, and Trevon Brazile definitely fits that bill for them. So I think the roster's pretty much complete. Calipai and Destin said they're going with 9. That doesn't mean it's just 9. They're going to add more walk-ons. They'll have like 7 walk-ons. Some of them will be on scholarship. We had a discussion on the Razor's Edge forum just about like what kind of players they should add. I've got a buddy who was a former walk-on, and he's just like, walk-ons should be great on defense. It doesn't matter if they can shoot and score and all this stuff. They just need to be able to play great defense. And that makes a lot of sense, because you're going to be, scrimmaging against those guys. And, who cares if they knock down a bunch of threes, can they play good defense? So the scholarship distribution, let's flip over to football real quick, because all 13 of the remaining scholarship players who were not enrolled have enrolled now. Okay, so just to go over that, I've got it written down here. So just to go over that, you've got high school additions. And by the way, real quick, we're streaming right now for the first time ever, we're streaming on Instagram, we're streaming on Facebook, we're streaming on YouTube, and I guess a couple of channels on Facebook, and we're streaming on X also, Twitter/X. So we're using new software, so we're able to stream everywhere. I used to just stream it on one channel at a time, but we're going to see how this works. We've got 534 people watching, so I guess that's pretty good. And we're going to get to the questions. We got 14 comments in, so if you got questions, we'll get to them. So you've got Bradley Shaw, the 4-star linebacker out of Hoover, Wyatt Simmons, the 3-star linebacker, who might be the most underrated player in the class because he never went to any camps, kind of like Traylon Burks. And, he just blew up all of a sudden from college coaches, but never went to any like camps or Nike camps or anything like that. But Wyatt Simmons, so 2 nice looking linebackers. Cross Johnson, wide receiver from New Orleans, and the most recent commitment is Zachary Taylor, former Army commitment, who flipped to Arkansas just a couple of weeks ago. So you got those 4 high school additions. You've got a JUCO addition in Tyler Reed, 5'9", 205, fast guy, ran for over 800 yards, 10.47 time in the 100-meter dash. Was a true freshman last year, so he's a qualifier, so he's able to enroll. But he had 132 carries for 833 yards and 13 touchdowns. That addition stems from the idea that you lost 2 guys in the late portal, Dominic Johnson and an Isaiah Augusta in the late portal, so you needed to add a couple of running backs. So he's one of the running backs they added. They also added Danny Salee, who 6'2", 355. That's a guy that they needed. They needed to get a guy like that because they had 4 solid defensive tackles, and then we've talked about they have a couple converted defensive ends behind that with the third group who are a little bit smaller, need to add some weight. So adding this guy gives them a solid 5, which you need 5 ready to go defensive tackles. 6 would be great, but 5 to me in the portal era is the limit. You need 5. So this guy's a nice addition, going to be a redshirt sophomore, was the number 13 junior college recruit in the nation when he committed to BYU, was there just a semester, and then hit the transfer portal. Rodney Hill is the other running back. By the way, Reed and Salee are both from Topeka, Kansas, so they know each other. Both went to Hutchinson Community College, so they have a relationship. But Rodney Hill's the other guy. Rodney Hill's a guy that we thought they might add in the early period, but after the 2 running backs hit, it made more sense to add him once he entered the portal. So he was from Florida State as a redshirt freshman. He ran 50 times for 190 yards just last season, and then hit the portal, ended up at Florida A&M, hit the portal again, and now he's at Arkansas. So more help on offense. Kafri Brown, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but this is a guy who was a former 4-star wide receiver. This guy is a freshman. I mean, he had pretty impressive numbers as a freshman. And then tore his ACL, later entered the transfer portal, ended up at South Florida, and had 27 catches, 435 yards, and 5 touchdowns last season. So he would have known Jacoby Criswell, but Jacoby Criswell hit the portal. To answer that, they brought in Blake Boda from Coastal Carolina, 6'4", 200, 1-1 passing as a true freshman last year for 14 yards. So he'll be a redshirt freshman this year. Joe Moore is the fourth offensive line transfer they brought in. To give you an idea how old this guy is, he's a year older than KJ Jefferson, who is a redshirt super senior now at UCF. This guy's class of 2018 was originally at Richmond, then at Syracuse, and now he'll provide some good depth for Arkansas. Still wouldn't mind. I've got him at 83 scholarship players. Wouldn't mind seeing them add a couple more. This group of 13 doesn't include Monty Harrison, 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", 218, depending on where you look at. Former minor league baseball player, 28 years old, was committed to Nebraska in the class of 2014. I hear this guy's an exceptional basketball player also, but baseball is paying his college tuition, so he doesn't count against the scholarship total. At some point, I don't guess that even matters anymore with all the new changes with the NCAA and unlimited scholarships that's coming, all that kind of stuff. We'll see how all that stuff works out. Maybe a discussion for another day. More help on defense. We've talked about, what do they have? 10 linebackers. Only 2 of them have played 2 years of college football, Xavier Sori and Caden Henley. So now you've got Stephen Dix Jr. Out of Marshall, who was formerly from Florida State. Former 4-star prospect, and Larry Worth, 6'4", 220 out of Jacksonville State. Both those guys had over 60 tackles last year. I'm not expecting some star power to come in, or maybe even starters, just a couple of older guys to boost the veteranness, if you will, of that room. So a couple of good additions there. Arkansas only had 12 scholarship players on the Arkansas roster from the state of Arkansas, which is wild, before Anthony Switzer hopped on board. Anthony Switzer is originally from Marion, went to Arkansas State, then followed Blake Anderson to Utah State when he went there. 6', 210 safety, 85 tackles, and 3 sacks and interception and a fumble recovery last year at Utah State. So those are all the additions. They are all enrolled. I've got confirmation on that for summer school. So Arkansas at 83 scholarship players enrolled right now, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it would be a super late addition if they added anybody else. A lot of times they'll hold over a couple scholarships. If they use those scholarships for anything, I'd like to see it on the line. One more defensive tackle, one more offensive lineman, because they're still low. They're at 13 scholarship offensive linemen. It's a little low. Need to be at 15, ideally. The SEC football power rankings have come out. Brad Crawford has listed Arkansas. What do you think Arkansas's at? Spoiler, 14. I don't necessarily completely disagree with putting them there. Coming off a 4-win season, the teams behind them are Mississippi State, which is rebuilding, and Vanderbilt, which is 16th. South Carolina, I think you could make an argument maybe that they're better than South Carolina. Maybe they're better than Florida, who they beat last year, another coach on the hot seat. It's hard to argue just the way the game went last year against Auburn, but Auburn's not unbeatable. They can go to Auburn and beat them unless something crazy happens again. Kentucky at 10, Texas A&M at 9. I mean, you could make an argument against Texas A&M. I mean, they're rebuilding also. After that, I mean, I don't think you can make many arguments for Arkansas. And, how will this season turn out? Like, we've talked about the schedule several times. The Oklahoma State game is huge. I think it's interesting. Arkansas's first 3 difficult games are at Oklahoma State, at Auburn, and Texas A&M in Arlington, a neutral site game, which Arkansas has lost 8 of the last 9 in Arlington against Texas A&M. That's very difficult when your first 3 difficult games are all on the road. So if there's some way they can overcome that challenge, ChatGPT thinks Arkansas can overcome it. We've been running simulations with ChatGPT just to see. I've got to week 10 now. So no, I've got to week 12. I've got to week 12 with Texas now. Arkansas is 8-2 and 6-2 in the SEC, 6-1 in the SEC. So, yeah, ChatGPT a little bit higher on Arkansas's prospects than Brad Crawford or myself. I certainly don't have Arkansas going 8-2 right now, heading into the Louisiana Tech game. But, it's kind of fun just to – we're in the offseason for all sports now. It's still a while before we start running simulations on NCAA football – or it's not NCAA football, it's just college football, EA Sports college football, before we start running simulations on there. But ChatGPT 4.0 – it's kind of fun how they put it together. They create a little game story quarter by quarter, create stats for you. Taylor Green is probably going to win the Heisman on ChatGPT. He seems to pass for like 300 to 340 yards and 3 touchdowns every game. If Jaquindon Jackson doesn't do it, because he's over 100 yards, I think, in every game. So there are some flaws here and there, but I mean, hey, it's just messing around a little bit. It's kind of content that you create now, top 10 list, rankings, way too early, all this kind of stuff. Let's see. Isaac Trotter also ranked college basketball's top 25 teams. He has Arkansas at 23rd, which is a weird spot to put a team that's going to end up in the Final Four. But he's got them ranked 23rd right now. This is before the Trevon Brazile edition. I don't think that would bump them up to any, significantly or anything. But, yeah, that's where it is right now. Okay. We want to go to Connor Goodson. I'm a little bit behind on that. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. HawgSports, 60% off right now, HawgSports.com. So go check us out. Let's see if I can do this correctly. Okay. So I'm not able to, it doesn't look like, I think I have to keep myself up here and not have you. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, 1 second here. Oh, that's disappointing. I wonder if I can add my mic. Audio. No. Okay, so we'll just have to have you on here, Connor. So let me ask everybody on there. Again, we're using some a new deal. So when I put Connor's graphic up there, just answer in the comments here. You guys weren't able to hear, correct? But you heard everything up until now. Is that right? Somebody comment. Let me know.
I see someone say we're back in business.
I see we're back in business. Aussie Maverick, you're a joke, dude. You're the worst Razorback poster on the internet. Embarrassing. All right, Connor. So I want to welcome in Connor Goodson. We lost Connor for a second. Apparently, I can't put up his graphic without him, without the audio going away. So that's disappointing.
That's fine. We don't want to break people's computer screens anyways with my face on there.
All right, Connor. So let's pick up where we left off. Obviously, a lot going on with Arkansas basketball. Just recap us on what happened. I guess all that was yesterday and a little bit today with DJ Wagner signing. I guess what's to come? What's next for Arkansas basketball?
Yeah, everyone can sleep peacefully now knowing that DJ Wagner's officially signed and TB's back. He's coming back for another year under Coach Cal. And I know a lot of people thought that last roster spot was going to go to Coleman Hawkins. There was serious interest there. I know Cal and his staff had plenty of conversations leading up to Hawkins withdrawing from the draft and then officially, announcing that and kind of opening his recruitment. Obviously, the dead period ended June 2nd, and there were some back and forths about possibly getting him on campus for a visit. And the Brazile meeting that I, posted on our the Razor's Edge forum Monday morning, I believe, is when I posted that. June 3rd is when Calipai and Brazile were supposed to meet. That kind of came out of left field. It caught some people off guard. Obviously, Brazile's fit kind of speaks for itself, but there were some serious question marks given Brazile's performance last year, injury issues, things like that. So there wasn't, at the time, it was kind of a thing where if the Hawkins plans fall through, then Brazile's going to slide in there, and there's probably serious interest there, and it's likely that he fits that last spot. Talking with people close to the situation, and from what I've gathered, when Cal and his staff were talking to Coleman Hawkins, they were coming away with more questions and concerns than they were feeling comfortable. And I'm sure you've talked about it already, but the price tag attached to Coleman Hawkins, even if it wasn't, seriously in the $2 million ballpark, it's going to come with a hefty price tag that they were going to be paying. And when you talk to a guy and he doesn't really, ease your concerns or questions that you have, it makes it a lot harder just to fork over that NIL money and say, let's do it anyways. But when they met with Brazile, they got the kind of opposite feeling when they met with him. And it kind of was one of those things where it's like, well, why don't we just go ahead and go with Brazile, bring him back. There's some familiarity there with the campus, with the town, with the fans. And so that's ultimately what they did and what we saw last night. And Hawkins longer being, and that's just things fell. And we could kind of see a little bit everyone that I talked to, including some national guys. Hawkins is a known troll. He's known to not really take some things serious, and there's a little bit of immaturity there. And I guess that's something that maybe kind of bit him in the rear end with Calipai and some of the staff members.
So are they done, you think, with 9? I mean, Calipari said 9 is it. Do you see any scenario where maybe they add somebody else, or you think that's it and we're just looking at maybe adding 6 or 7 walk-ons from there?
No, from everything that everyone I've spoken to close to the team, that they're done with their big NIL, big minute main rotation guys, and going forward, it's just going to add in certain type Calipari's definition of the walk-ons, which aren't necessarily walk-ons, but just guys who are going to have to earn any playing time. They're going to have to earn any major NIL deal that they have. They're going to have to earn it on the court or in practice. And I think looking ahead at those type of players, I kind of caught before what you were saying, you want guys who can play defense. I think that's perfect. I think really looking at the front court right now, you've got some solid depth there with Piero, Brazile, Adu, and Ivisic, but you really need a bruiser, I think, just kind of a Kamani Johnson, just in case. Worst case scenario, you can bring a guy in who's just going to be a dog on the boards and at the defensive end, and really just mix it up. And if he can give you anything on offense, that's great. But really, just something on the defensive end, and then I think you're going to see them go after some shooters. Maybe not the most athletic, maybe not the best ball handlers, but maybe just some spot up shooting as well for these last couple of spots, and then just kind of roll with it from there.
Where are they looking next year now? I mean, obviously we can, I guess, jump ahead to 2025. What's the outlook there?
So Darius Acuff Jr. was the first visitor from the 2025 class that came in. He came in the same weekend as DJ Wagner back in early May. And then you're looking at, I believe it was June 25th, I want to say. I can't remember. I didn't have it pulled up right now, but with Malik Thomas, who's the number 9 overall player in the class, the number 1 combo guard in the 2025 class. He has a great relationship with Calipai, dating back to the time at Kentucky when he was first recruited. And he's kind of kept that connection going forward. And I believe he said that, it's not really the school that he's being recruited to, it's the coach. So naturally, I think Arkansas is in a really good spot there. You've got the Bruiser twins, also 2 of the top recruits in the country. And you've got some other guys also, like AJ, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, Debansa, who is the number 1 recruit and consensus number 1 prospect in the entire class for next year. He's been kind of feeling out guys, and he's going to start taking some visits here soon. I expect Arkansas to kind of be in the mix along with every other blue blood top program in the country. But those are just some guys to keep an eye on. And going forward throughout the summer, we're going to see a lot more of that, a lot clearer picture of what direction they're headed for next year.
Figured out how to get you up there. You're on screen now.
Thank the Lord.
Everybody's
happy.
A
lot of people probably aren't happy about that. But.
All right, Connor, anything else to add?
Off the top of my head, I just think that with this Arkansas roster, I think you've got a lot of versatility, flexibility. You can throw a lot of different lineups of guys, the team. Just looking at how different different looks you can throw at guys. You've got a lot of shooting, despite what people say. I think there's enough shooting here where I know people are concerned, but I see guys like Nelly Davis, even the freshmen, Carter Knox and Billy Richmond, Woody Fland has shown ability. I think that they're going to be a lot better than we expected offensively. And AJ takes a step. Trevon Brazile, he's a 30% plus shooter in his career from beyond the arc. So if you have enough shooting there to really do some damage, and especially if some of these guys take the leagues that we expect them. So I really like where we're sitting right now, even with 9. And I really think that this roster should turn out to be one of the better in the country.
All right, Connor. Appreciate you helping on, brother.
Appreciate you having me on.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson again. Well, not again because you didn't hear me early. You can follow him at Connor Goodson. That's on Twitter, and he's the HawgSports recruiting analyst. Been with us for 6 months. This is the 6 months he's been with us, and has just done a fantastic job. Really hit the ground running. So be sure to follow him at Connor Goodson. All right, we're going to hop on with Danny West now. There's a lot going on with Razorback football as well. I just had a bunch of visitors in. Danny, how's it going, man?
Let me try to sell. That go.
Right.
What's going on? We'll get through it.
Oh, not much. We just had Connor on, talked a little bit about basketball. Had a few hiccups here and there, but we're getting through it. It's the first time on this platform. I think I've inadvertently also messed up the streaming quality when I set it, so it's kind of blurry. So we'll get through that also.
Yeah, I noticed that. I kind of appreciated that, so I don't have to look at you in 4K.
Yeah. Well, we got your mug on here now, so everybody.
Nice. Clean up.
So, Danny, what's going on? What's the latest with football recruiting? Let's start, I guess, maybe last week.
Sure. Yeah. heard you mention early in the show that it's off season for all the sports. I have a strong disagreement with that. I'm in the belly of the beast right now with June official visits. We got camp season coming up. I'm looking at my calendar. I think next week, 5 days in a row with camps. And, you know, kind of joking with a neighbor earlier saying, man, it's kind of the only good thing about Arkansas baseball and the early exit. Don't have to sit out at camp checking scores. You know, those days when it's hot, you don't know the score of the baseball game. So outside of that, we'll start with the last weekend's visit. I thought it was a really good visit. I told everybody on 103.7 last Friday I didn't expect a lot of commitments coming out of that particular group. They had 13 really good players on campus, and that's a good thing. We could start there. You know, I feel like everybody for the last 6 months or so is kind of like, man, Arkansas recruiting is just, you know, it's dead, and nothing great's going to happen this year. And if there is a positive takeaway coming out of last weekend, is that you are still attracting so many great players to campus. I can't sit here and tell everybody to get your hopes up on guys like Tavion Wallace, Kevin Otis, some of these guys. I think they're probably going to pick other schools, but you get what I'm saying. It's not completely dead. They're still attracting a really healthy, strong visit list throughout the month. So I thought it was a great group. They're probably going to end up with a couple of those guys. Just kind of briefly run through Tavion Wallace, I mentioned there, 5-star linebacker out of Wayne County High School. He's still got trips to take to Florida, Florida State, and Georgia. He's out of Jessup, Georgia, borderline 5-star campus, right? So we'll skip through that one. Kelshawn Johnson probably liked it a little better than I thought. He's a 4-star receiver out of Hitchcock, Texas. I think the Longhorns are going to be really tough to beat there. Still get a trip to USC. I think he's still going to A&M this weekend as well. So it's kind of a trend you're going to see as I talk about these guys. So many big-time offers, so many big-time remaining visits. And that's kind of why I thought going into last weekend, not just a ton of potential for immediate, quick turnaround, ready to lock it in and get it over with type commitments. Kevin Otis, I mentioned, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 4-star defensive lineman. He would be a major get, but he would also be a major upset. I think Mississippi State's going to be tough to beat there, home state school and all. But if I had to pick any of those top 3 highest rated guys, he might be one that I would say you might have a little better chance at. We'll see. I'll try to speed up here, Trey. Charles Bass, 3-star cornerback out of East St. Louis. You're battling Coach B in Illinois for this one. Logan Stram, 3-star offensive lineman, composite 4-star out of Kearney, Texas. I want to tell you, probably the most physically impressive guy that I saw on campus this past weekend. Just huge. He told me 6'5.5". I would have swore he's 6'6.5". He's 328, prototypical SEC type size, battling TCU and Texas Tech for this one. I think he had a little bit of trouble travel-wise getting to and from Northwest Arkansas. And, that could have been a few deal. A lot of storms going on recently in our region. So who knows there. But we should find out Sunday. I think he's going to make a commitment Sunday between Arkansas, Texas Tech, and TCU again. So can't really call it. I think it's going to be tough to beat TCU, but wouldn't shock me. I know Eric Mateos did a really good job with all 4 of these 4-star offensive linemen who were on campus this week. He's got another big one coming in this weekend. So Mateos is very quietly putting together a really strong, at least 2, right? So we'll see who he ends up with. Bryson Jones, 3-star receiver out of Frisco, Texas. A lot of competition there. Texas Tech's up there for him. Offensive lineman out of American Fork, Utah. We don't ever talk about Utah on here. And I thought it was interesting. I did a study on his high school, Lone Peak High School. He's produced 16 these since 2006. Every one of them stayed in state. So not sure what to tell you on that one. Probably not get your hopes up.
Yeah.
Rashawn Perry, 3-star defensive lineman who's committed to UCS. We didn't talk about him going into last. Showed up. Obviously, he's committed to Coach Malzahn and UCF. That's a pretty recent commitment. Not sure he really wanted to publicize it going into the trip, but was more than happy to talk about it after making it. And I think you're going to hang around there. Could be one to watch. He's out of Covington, Georgia, Newton County. Newton High School. And Xavier Upanu.
Nailed it.
You knew that there'd be one.
Mhm.
3-star defensive lineman out of Denton Geyer. That's in Texas. Cash Courtney, offensive lineman out of Carthage, Texas. Maybe one to watch here in the next couple of weeks. Trey, he's been committed to Baylor, committed to Coach Mateo Baylor last October. Came up for an unofficial in January. Came back for an official in June. Told us it's a 50-50 race now. He's still committed to Baylor, still has a trip to take to Waco. So we'll see what they do with that. But I could see that one going either way, as is the case with a 50-50.
Danny West joining us again. You can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on Twitter. He's the HawgSports recruiting analyst and does a fantastic job. Most of his content is VIP, so if you read Danny's information on HawgSports, then you'll need to sign up, and you can sign up right now for 60% off. Also, if you're a monthly subscriber on HawgSports, you can take advantage of this deal and upgrade your annual subscription for 60%. 12 cents a day, 83 cents a week, $358 a month, and billed at just $42.96 for the entire year. There is no promo code for the offer. Just go to hawgsports.com, HAWGsports.com, and sign up, and you'll be good to go. Danny, I'm going to get you out with this one question. Carius Kern, what's it going to take? Where does Arkansas stand right now?
Yeah, probably take some NIL. Let's just call it what it is. I'm sure everybody's going to throw quite a bit at it, and rightfully so. You've heard me talk about it. You're well, 6'4", 300, can play offensive line, defensive line. I think he's probably top 100 either way. I mean, we've got him at 193rd in the country overall as an offensive tackle. I actually, if I had to pick a spot for him, I'd probably go defensive tackle, especially if I'm Arkansas, right? A state that doesn't produce a lot of those types. Just feel like maybe you can bridge that gap a little easier with Mateos and what he's bringing in now than you can. No shot at Deke Adams. It's not a Deke Adams problem. It's just an Arkansas problem. Years and decades they've had trouble matching what LSU and Auburn and all these teams get on the defensive side. So when you get a guy like this, it's really tough to not go defense. But you ask me where things stand. He's fresh off of a Missouri official visit. He'll be coming to Arkansas in 2 days to start his official. I think when he decommitted so suddenly and so abruptly after like 6 weeks, everybody kind of said, that's probably over with. Lost that one, never going to get that one back. And then lo and behold, you're still in the race, still got a chance to bring him to campus. I think LSU obviously owns the crystal ball trend right now. And most of those, it should be noted, Trey, most of those picks came immediately after his decommitment from Arkansas. So I say that because, time passes. We've seen quite a few really swift changes with Carius so far.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's probably a guy that, you can't really freak out because it might be a roller coaster up until the end, which, as we know now, is probably December 4th with the early signing period moving up. So I can't really call it right now. We'll have to get through this weekend. Might be a better question for me next week after we get his updated thoughts on everything. But just seems like it seems like another typical case where maybe small town Arkansas kid really blew up in a major hurry, and a lot came his way in a short amount of time. And so often, and we've seen it a lot. So often, some of these guys make an early decision, freak out. You've got all these coaches saying hot seat and we got more this type of stuff. Just take a step back, let him breathe a little bit, get him on campus, show him the official visit, and see where he goes from there. But it's key. It's key to get one of these officials. That means you're still very much alive, and I think that's been the case. Don't think he's even close to ruling out Arkansas as a potential destination that he could sign with.
All right, Danny. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the info.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. Again, that's Danny West. You can follow him at Danny West 24/7 on X, HawgSports recruiting analyst, and sign up at HawgSports to read all of his information and interact with him whenever you want on the Razor's Edge. And keep in mind also that Braylon Russell was committed to Arkansas, also an in-state guy who decommitted for a long stretch and ended up flipping back over to Arkansas. Okay, so we've had a few issues. We figured them out. We've got the graphics up, and everything looks good there, right? Good there. don't want that display name up. Just a few kinks here and there. For some reason, StreamYard doesn't love my Wi-Fi connection. I don't know why. I just did a speed test. I'm at 500 megabits per second over that, which is streaming extremely fast. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's all the different channels. I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. I know I'm a little blurry right now, but we'll figure it out and get this thing squared away in no time. Hopefully by the next show. All right, let's go to a few. Let's go to a few live viewer comments here. All right, let's see what we got. Trey is late. I was a little late. I was trying to figure it out. Cut me some slack, heartbroken hog. Used to it, average Joe. What do you mean? Bill Richards says, long time no see. Appreciate and love hearing you on Drive Time. Appreciate that. All right. So Brandon Ward says U of A is a basketball school. So after football season, that's what everybody said. Arkansas had tanked the football season. Everybody says Arkansas is a basketball school. Then the basketball team tanks, and everybody says Arkansas is a baseball school. And then we saw what happened with baseball, and now you run into people back saying basketball school. But let's see. I mean, I think you're probably right in a large way, but, football is still like 74% of the revenue and a major traffic driver. I mean, I can look at our numbers and, until recently with all the basketball and Calipai stuff, obviously that's a lot of big news. And then, when you get into postseason for baseball, you drive a good bit of traffic, but generally just football recruiting drives a ton of traffic for us. Let's see. Christian Potts says, do you think Cal recruited TB to return money, or do you think TB didn't have a lot of options and chose to settle? I don't have the answer to that. I think it's probably a good situation for both players. John Calipari puts a lot of guys in the NBA. Trevon Brazile, when healthy, is an NBA talent. So I think it's probably a mutually beneficial deal. I doubt he cost, like some people were throwing around with Hawkins, like $1.5 million. Which, the numbers that are going around right now for both football and basketball especially are way more than they were last year. I mean, with Ron Holland, we were talking like 550,000 or something. I mean, there was maybe one guy last year maybe two guys last year where you're talking about $1 million. Now some people are talking like $1 million, $2 million for several players, which is pretty wild. I'm not sure. It's maybe the video's fuzzy and the audio's out of sync. We'll get it squared away. Again, it's show 1 on the new platform. Brock Brown says Brazile will be a practice player. I think he'll probably surprise you. I don't know if that Brazile is going to start with this lineup or not, but he's going to play a big role. With TB, where does that put as far as preseason rankings? As I mentioned, Chris, Arkansas was 23rd on Isaac Trotter's list. I think that's a little low, but I'm not sure that Trevon Brazile, and this was put out like yesterday morning before Brazile jumped on board. So I'm not sure that Brazile is going to boost him up, boost Arkansas up that much. Yes, picture is blurry on YouTube. I'm aware. We're going to get there. Sorry for the hiccups, but inglorious 240p. We'll figure it out, hopefully by the next show. Big difference on YouTube from previous clarity. Voice track is off. Yes. Yeah. Using more bandwidth, possibly. Sonic Woopig says it was clear. We'll figure it out. All right, what else we got? Let's see what Scott Reeves says. Trey, any chance of a star transfer coming in for football? No. I keep waiting for another Drew Sanders to get my mind fired up. Maybe this will be another all we need is who we have year. Well, they're not adding any more big splash transfers in football. All those guys are where they're going to be. So who's the big splash this year? I mean, if you think about it in recent years, Jaheim Singletary was a former 5-star. Xavier Sori was a former 5-star. Maybe that's a guy that you say is a big splash get. Just thinking about the secondary. I mean, there's some good players they added, like a Marquise Robinson and a Danico Slaughter and stuff, but none of those guys are like, whoa, can't believe they got this guy. but they're good players. Linebacker Xavier Sori, what do you have, like 17 tackles last year? Former 5-star, so that's notable. Nobody really on the defensive line aside from Salih. The offensive line, I think Fernando Carmona was probably viewed as a pretty big get. I don't know that he was a transfer labeled transfer 4-star, but he was. I mean, everybody wanted him. But he might be about as big as you could consider there. Andreas Puska at tight end isn't going to be that, but he's a nice addition for him. Wide receiver. I mean, Taylor Green, how coveted was Taylor Green? I know that they like him a lot. Obviously, Bobby Petrino really likes him. I find him to be really electric at times and inconsistent at the same time. So we'll see how that plays out for the season. I think Jaquinton Jackson was a really nice get. He was a 4-star addition, a guy that was a former top 50 type recruit at Texas before he went to Utah. I think he's got a lot to prove, chip on his shoulder. Maybe that's a guy you look at, but I don't know if I would say like anybody's just like some of the guys that Ole Miss brought in were just like, whoa, damn, Ole Miss. So pulling for Chat GPT. Yep, 8-2 right now. I haven't finished out the last couple games. But we'll get there shortly. I feel like Chat GPT likes art, and I switched it around a lot. Like tried to make it less like. Because of the description, like I'm including all the names and stuff, tried to make it less favorable to Arkansas, and they were still picking Arkansas to win. So I don't know if it's like zeroed in on my location and wants to please me or what. Robert Taylor says so much for technology. Yeah, we're going to get it figured out. And we did figure out in show how to get the graphics up. Eventually, we're going to get those guys on live too. We're going to get that figured out too. I mean, we got it figured out. We just have to get everything set up. Danny's got a new studio, so we'll have all that stuff. Ozzy's a clown. Yes, he's in timeout. Hey Trey, what's it going to take for Arkansas to make the playoffs in the future? Well, they're going to have to get through that stretch. They're going to have to get through Oklahoma State, which Oklahoma State, won 10 games last year. They've got a 7th-year quarterback who was a returning starter. They've got the best running back in the country in Ollie Gordon. When he put up like 1,800 yards last year, 1,700 yards, something like that. So, they've got a lot of talent. They did start pretty slow last year for a 10-win team. They had a pretty slow start. So maybe they start off slow this year. Arkansas can only hope, right? But it is interesting. I mean, they return a lot. They're in the 20th year of Gundy, and Arkansas is in a lot of ways starting over. That's kind of a scary proposition, but Auburn's not unbeatable. They came and whipped Arkansas last year when they pretty much let go of the rope. Didn't look like they wanted to be there. So, yeah, I mean, like they got to get through that. If they can get through that, then they get a bye week. Tennessee and LSU. I mean, there's some games that they can win, but they got to get through that stretch, build some confidence, and that's asking a lot, I think, for this team. This is not Ozarks Go's fault. It's something with this StreamYard that it doesn't like. I think it's probably with my my little individual things. That doesn't sound right either because I'm pulling over 500 megabits per second wirelessly, which is super fast. Wouldn't hurt to focus. The camera's focused. I can see it right now. It's focused. We're good. Everybody likes a good dumpster fire, right? Sonic Woo Pig says, Trey, don't sweat it. Everyone has kinks to work out when trying new technology. Thank you. Great decision not to take Hawkins, says Libby Rush. Hope Brazile is going to take advantage of his opportunity to showcase his skills. I think we'll see a new Trevon Brazile. I really do. Again, like this dude was dunking on everybody before he got hurt. They were going to focus the whole offense around him that year in Nick Smith. And both those guys ended up getting hurt. And, he just didn't come back the same player. Missed some time with the knee. Everybody came up with all kinds of ridiculous, salacious rumors. But he just wasn't wasn't fully healthy. So I'm always like hesitant to criticize players a lot of times. I see all kinds of comments like so-and-so's not playing tough. So-and-so has no heart. But you don't know what's going on with their knee or their ankle or their groin or any of that stuff, you know? I mean, they could have all kinds of different injuries and usually do in football, especially. In the pod with J-Rod, some of the transfers we got cause how many years of eligibility have left. We're good because they, gotcha. Trey, do you think the wide receiver tight end room will make up for some of Taylor's deficiencies? I mean, he's got to be consistent throwing the ball. There were just times where I noticed, like in the spring, like during like the middle part of spring, like he would throw the ball and just be way off target. There's no answer for that. There's no answer for like throwing the ball 7 yards out of bounds, which he would do. Other times he was just like definitely accurate, just like very impressive. And he's got it, you know, just has great speed also. So yeah, I think it's difficult to make up when the ball's thrown, you know, out of bounds and stuff. I do like where Arkansas is at wide receiver. Is there a superstar in that group? I don't know that I would say that yet, but Andrew Armstrong's certainly consistent. I was encouraged with what I saw from Trevon Brazile. I think he'll be a good player for him, definitely increase his numbers this year. I really liked what I saw from Varkey's Gums. I think the star group on offense, you know, Luke has Varkey's Gums. When they get Ty Washington back healthy also. You know, Shamar Easter did some good things. He's behind some, you know, more veteran players. So, and Andreas Puska, I think, is a nice addition as far as like more of a traditional old school type of tight end. Seth Durkin says, is there a potential KK Robinson? And then get out of here. No. Dirty South Hog here from Kenny Jones says, Trey, what's your prediction for us at Oklahoma State? A little too early, but it's hard for me to say that Arkansas is going to go to Stillwater and win in week 2. You know, coming off that UAPB game, they do get a little bit extra time. I'm not counting them out. As I mentioned, you know, I made the point earlier that Oklahoma State starts pretty slow. You know, Arkansas does have more resources than Oklahoma State. From, you know, people I've talked to, Arkansas spends way more on NIL. They have better facilities than Oklahoma State, but they have not been winning at the same rate Oklahoma State has, obviously. I mean, that's obvious. That's apparent. Oklahoma State is, but also in the Big 12. So I'm not going to say that they can't go there and win. I just think, you know, for me, I combine those 3 games, those first 3 difficult games, and like they're all away from home. I just think that's a lot to overcome. Okay, everybody. Appreciate you bearing with me. This was test episode 1 on the new platform. We're going to get it figured out. Don't you worry. We'll get it figured out and we'll have everything running nice and smooth. But appreciate everybody hopping on with us. It's been a while since we've done a show. We just had a lot of other things going on, and it's just kind of a weird time of year with everything being in the off season, except for Razorback football recruiting is its own sport. Sign up right now for 60% off. Again, HawgSports.com, 60% off. This runs until 10:59 p.m. Central Daylight Time on June 11th. So you got about a week to sign up. 12 cents a day, 83 cents a week, $358 a month, billed at just $42.96 for the entire year. Go to HawgSports.com to sign up. And yeah, if you're a monthly user also, you can upgrade to the annual deal as well. All right, everybody. Appreciate you hopping on with us. Let's see if I can properly end this show now. Let me do a rehearsal, I guess. There we go. There we go. All right. Thanks for hopping on. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com. We'll get it cleaned up next time, and we'll catch you then.